Our dad had the same tattoo, said the twin girls, and 5 Hell's Angels froze in place. The chrome of 10 Harley-Davidsons gleamed under the afternoon sun outside Rusty's diner. The engines still crackled as they cooled, leather seats still warm from the miles traveled. The air smelled of strong coffee and bacon grease. The jukebox in the corner played Johnny Cash, and someone was arguing about a poker game from the night before. Inside, 5 men in leather vests occupied the corner booth, the one with duct tape holding the vinyl together and coffee stains that wouldn't come out no matter how hard you scrubbed. Patches covered their backs. Scars mapped their fingers. Tattoos told stories that most people only know from nightmares. These were Hell's Angels. Northern California chapter. And every Sunday, without fail, the table was sacred territory. Then the bell above the door rang, and everything stopped. 2 girls stood in the doorway. Identical twins, maybe 9 or 10 years old. African American, with braided hair pulled back in matching ponytails, a few loose strands falling over their faces that they didn't bother to push away. Their clothes were worn, sneakers with holes at the toes, the kind of holes that come from walking too much and changing shoes too little. Jackets too thin for the October chill, with patches on the elbows that didn't match the fabric. Jeans too short for their growing legs, showing scraped ankles. But it was their eyes that caught attention first. Dark, steady, ancient. The kind of look that belongs to children who learn too early that the world doesn't give, it takes. They stood against the afternoon light, small and fragile, but with a determination that didn't match their age. Tank, the tallest biker, with shoulders as broad as a football player's and a beard that reached his chest, was the first to notice them. He nudged Reaper, the chapter president, whose face was a map of scars and untold stories. A knife mark crossed his left cheek. A burn on his neck, a reminder of an exhaust pipe in Bakersfield 10 years ago. His hands were huge, knuckles like walnuts, and on his right forearm was a tattoo of a winged skull, wings spread wide as if trying to escape his skin. Reaper's eyes narrowed. Not with threat, but with curiosity. The girls took a step forward. Then another. Their hands trembled, but their chins were firm. They walked directly to the biker's table without hesitation, without looking away, without asking permission. They stopped a meter from Reaper. The silence in the diner was deafening. Even the jukebox seemed to have lowered its volume. One of them, the one with a small scar on her left eyebrow, spoke first. Her voice was desperately trying to be brave, but trembled at the edges. Our dad had the same tattoo. She pointed to Reaper's forearm. There it was, the winged skull. The 1% symbol. The mark that meant you lived outside the rules, rode with brothers, and earned your place in a brotherhood that most people would never understand. It wasn't just ink. It was a promise, a commitment, a way of life that didn't end when you parked your bike. Reaper leaned back. His leather vest creaked. The patches told stories. Chapter president, original member, road captain. Each one earned through blood, sweat, and miles that would break most men. What are your names? Reaper asked, his voice low and cautious. I'm Nina, said the one with the scar. And she's Nadia. Nina and Nadia what? Brooks. Nina and Nadia Brooks. And what was your father's name? The twins exchanged a glance for a brief second. Nadia, the one who hadn't spoken yet, gathered her courage. Daniel Brooks. But everyone called him Ghost. Tank's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. His eyes went wide and the liquid spilled onto the table, but he didn't even notice. Wrench, thin and sharp as a blade, with tattoos running up both arms like sleeves of stories, took a step back as if he'd been punched in the stomach. Blackjack, with knuckles like tree bark, stopped breathing. Smoke, the quiet one who never said much but saw everything, whose eyes were the color of storm clouds, closed his eyes and his shoulders collapsed as if he'd aged 10 years in a second. And Reaper. Reaper felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath him. Ghost, he said, and the word was a prayer and a wound all at once. It hung in the air, heavy with memory. Your Ghost's daughters? The twins nodded in unison. He died a year ago, Nina said. Cancer. The air left the room. Tank sat back down hard, making the wood groan under his weight. Wrench muttered something in Spanish that his grandmother had taught him. It sounded like both a curse and a blessing. Ghost had daughters? Tank murmured, more to himself than anyone. Twins? He never said anything. He never told us, Reaper whispered, his mind spinning, connecting dots that didn't make sense. Nina reached into her jacket pocket and pulled something out. An old photo, crumpled, with torn edges and water stains in one corner. But you could still see clearly, a group of young bikers in front of a bar with a neon sign that said Blackjacks. Smiling like they owned the world. And right in the center, with his arm around Reaper's shoulders, was Ghost. Laughing, head thrown back, a cigarette behind his ear, holding a beer bottle in his other hand. On the back, in shaky, uneven handwriting, the letters of someone who could barely hold a pen, was written. If you ever need help, find them. Rusty's Diner, every Sunday. Their family. They'll remember. Love, Dad. Reaper took the photo as if it were made of glass. He stared at the image for a long moment, his thumb tracing the edge. Tank looked over his shoulder and his breath caught. Wrench moved closer, eyes narrowed. Blackjack made a sound in his throat. Smoke just stared, unblinking. He wrote this 3 weeks before he died, Nadia said, her voice choking. He could barely hold the pen, but he wanted us to know where to go if things got bad. Reaper stood slowly. He walked around the table until he was in front of the twins. He was a big man, 6'4", 250, intimidating, covered in ink and scars, a face that had been broken and rebuilt more than once. But when he knelt down to be at eye level with them, his face was soft. Human. Vulnerable. Your father, he said, and his voice cracked a little, like rust breaking off old metal, was one of the best men I ever knew. Nina's eyes filled with tears. You knew him. Knew him. Reaper almost laughed, but it was a broken sound. Something wet and raw. Girl, he saved my life. Twice. What none of those hardened men could imagine was that those two girls hadn't come just to show an old photo. They carried a weight that children should never have to carry, and a secret that Ghost had kept for 10 years. A secret that was about to change everything the Brotherhood thought they knew about loyalty, sacrifice, and the true meaning of family. And the question hanging in the air, still unanswered, was simple. Why did Ghost abandon his brothers without ever mentioning he had 2 daughters? Reaper guided the twins to the table. Tank pulled up 2 chairs. Wrench went to the counter and came back with 2 cups of hot chocolate and 2 sandwiches. The girls looked like they hadn't eaten properly in days. They attacked the food with a hunger that made every man's stomach tighten. Start from the beginning, Reaper said. Tell me everything. Nina and Nadia exchanged looks. That silent communication only twins understand. Nina was the one who started. Dad got sick 2 years ago. Started with a cough. Then came the diagnosis. She swallowed hard. He fought until the end. But the cancer one. What about your mother? Tank asked. Mom held everything together while Dad was sick, Nadia continued. Worked 2 jobs, took care of him, took care of us. But after he died, she fell apart. Depression, then pulmonary fibrosis. She can't breathe right. She needs surgery and medication, but we don't have insurance. How much does it cost? Reaper asked. $50,000. Maybe more. The silence was heavy. $50,000 was a fortune for a family that clearly had nothing. Why did you come looking for us now? Blackjack asked. The twins exchanged looks. Nadia lowered her eyes. Because of the landlord. Rick Hartley. We're 3 months behind on rent. He comes every day to yell at Mom, call her horrible names. Last week he cornered us in the hallway. Said we're scum, that we should go back where we came from. He pushed Nina against the wall. Reaper's jaw tightened. Tank's knuckles went white. He put his hands on you? Tank asked, his voice like distant thunder. Nina touched the scar on her eyebrow. It was him. 2 weeks ago. Mom tried to defend me and he pushed her too. She had a breathing crisis. We almost called an ambulance, but we don't have money. Reaper closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was a cold fury there. Why did Ghost never tell us about you? Why did he leave without saying anything? Mom explained, Nina said. Dad loved you guys, the brotherhood, the freedom. But when he found out Mom was pregnant with twins, he understood he had to choose. He said the biker life was too dangerous. That one day he wouldn't come home. So he left, Reaper murmured. Started over. He never regretted it, Nadia said. He told us stories about you every night. Said you taught him what loyalty meant. At the end, when the morphine made him confused, sometimes he'd call out for you. Call for Reaper. Say he missed his brothers. Tank turned away, shoulders shaking. Wrench wiped his eyes. Smoke remained still, but a tear ran down his cheek. Reaper stood. He looked at his brothers. There was no hesitation. Tank nodded. Wrench cracked his knuckles. Blackjack said, "We ride." Smoke looked at the twins as if they were the most important thing in the world. Reaper placed his hand on Nina's shoulder. "You did the right thing. Ghost was our brother. That makes you family. And we don't let family suffer. Ever. Will you help us?" "Girl," Tank said, "we'll move heaven and earth for you." Reaper pulled out his phone. "Wrench, prepare the room at the clubhouse. Tank, find out everything about this Rick Hartley. Blackjack, contact Dr. Chun. Smoke, go with the girls to see their mother." What Rick Hartley didn't know was that by intimidating two defenseless children, he had declared war on men who didn't know the meaning of the word retreat. While he counted down the days until Friday to throw a sick family onto the street, 5 bikers were drawing up a plan that would completely change the game. 3 hours later, Reaper's truck pulled up outside a rundown apartment complex in a part of town where the paint peeled, the sirens never stopped, and the streetlights were broken more often than not. Nina and Nadia led the bikers upstairs. The building smelled of mold and cigarettes. The stairs creaked. There was graffiti on the walls. Second floor. Dimly lit hallway, one bulb flickering like it was dying. Apartment 207. The door was thin, with a dent like someone had kicked it. From inside came the sound of coughing, wet, harsh, the kind that makes your own chest hurt just listening. Nina knocked. "Mom, it's us." The door opened. A woman stood there. Mid-30s maybe, but she looked older. Exhausted, pale as paper. Hair tied back in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. An oxygen tube ran to her nose, connected to a portable tank. She was beautiful, you could tell beneath the illness. High cheekbones, brown eyes, the kind of face that used to turn heads. But life was taking pieces of her. She saw her daughters first. Relief flooded her face. Then she saw the bikers. Her face went white and she stepped back, gripping the doorframe. "Nina, Nadia, what?" "Mom, they knew Dad." The woman, Grace, froze. Her hand went to her mouth. Her eyes went wide. "Daniel." Reaper stepped forward. He took off his sunglasses. "Mrs. Brooks, my name's Reaper. I rode with your husband for 15 years. He was one of the best men I ever knew. Saved my life more than once. And your daughters told us you need help." He paused. "Ghost would never forgive us if we did nothing." Grace looked at the twins. Then at the bikers. Tears filled her eyes. "I told you not to bother anyone," she whispered to her daughters. "I said we'd figure it out." "They're not just anyone, Mom," Nina said. "They're family. Dad said so." Grace began to cry. Not quiet tears, the kind that come from holding everything in for too long, from sleepless nights wondering how to survive another day. The bikers entered. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, clean but barely. A mattress on the living room floor where the twins clearly slept. Medical bills stacked on a plastic table. Notices stamped in red. An old fridge humming in the corner, nearly empty from the sound of it. Tank looked around and swore under his breath. Wrench was already on his phone, texting. Blackjack sat on the floor near the twins. Reaper sat across from Grace. "You're not letting us do anything. We're doing it. Period. Ghost was our brother. He rode with us through hell. He bled for us. And when he left, it wasn't because he stopped caring. It was because he cared too much. He chose you. That's the most honorable thing a man can do." Grace nodded, the relief on her face almost painful to see. The next morning, before dawn, 3 trucks pulled up outside the complex. The bikers loaded everything Grace and the twins owned. It didn't take long. A few boxes, clothes, the girls' school books, a stuffed bear that looked like it had been through a war, Grace's medical equipment. When the sun rose, apartment 207 was empty. But the day wasn't over yet. That afternoon, 5 bikes pulled up outside Rick Hartley's office, a rundown building near the waterfront. He was inside, feet on his desk, eating a sandwich, when the door opened and the Angels walked in. Hartley was a man in his 50s, balding, with a gut hanging over his belt and teeth yellowed from cigarettes. A small man with small power who had spent years pushing around people who couldn't push back. He looked up and froze. Reaper walked to the desk. Sat down across from Hartley. The others spread out behind him. Tank crossed his arms. Wrench leaned against the wall. Blackjack picked up a paperweight, examined it. Smoke stood at the door, blocking the exit. Rick Hartley, Reaper said. Hartley swallowed hard. Who are you? We're friends of the Brooks family. And we need to have a conversation about how you've been treating them. I was just collecting what's owed. 3 months behind. $1,500. Reaper pulled out a roll of bills, counted out $1,500, slapped it on the desk. Paid. With interest. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to write paid in full on their account. You're never going to contact them again. Never going to go near those girls. Reaper leaned forward. And if I even hear a rumor, that you're bothering anyone else in that building, any other family that can't defend themselves, I'll be back. And next time, I won't be this friendly. Hartley nodded frantically. Why yes, of course, absolutely. One more thing, Tank said, picking up a framed photo from the desk. It was Hartley with his family, wife and kids at Disneyland. Nice family you got here. Would be a shame if they found out what kind of man you really are. Pushing children, threatening sick women. Hartley went white. Please, We're not going to hurt anyone, Reaper said. We're not like that. But you need to understand that the people you've been pushing around have people who care about them. They left him there, sweating and shaking. Outside, Wrench asked, think he'll listen? He'll listen, Smoke said. Men like him are cowards. They only push when they know they can win. The Hells Angels clubhouse sat on 5 acres outside town, surrounded by trees and a chain-link fence. It was a 2-story building, part warehouse, part home, all brotherhood. The brothers prepared a room upstairs for Grace and the twins. One with 2 windows that let in the morning light. Tank brought a Rayol bed. Wrench hung curtains, dark blue, which Nina chose. Blackjack filled the fridge with real food. Smoke set up a desk for the girls to do homework, with a lamp and a cup full of pens. Grace watched it all from the couch, wrapped in a blanket, breathing still difficult but steady. For the first time in months, she smiled for real. In the weeks that followed, the bikers became part of their lives in ways that felt both strange and natural. Reaper took Grace to doctor's appointments. Argued with insurance companies until they caved. Found a specialist in San Francisco willing to do the surgery for free, a doctor who had lost his own brother to lung disease and understood what it meant to fight for family. Tank taught the twins how to fix motorcycle chains, change oil, read engine sounds. Wrench helped with math homework. He had an engineering degree, something few people knew. Blackjack told stories about ghosts that made the girls laugh until their sides hurt. And Smoke, who barely talked to anyone, began reading to them every night. Westerns, adventures, stories about heroes and redemption. Grace's surgery happened on a Tuesday in November. The bikers waited at the hospital, all of them, filling the waiting room with leather and ink and silent tension. 6 hours later, the surgeon came out smiling. Everything went well. She's going to recover. Tank cried. Wrench punched the wall and then apologized to the nurse. Blackjack hugged the twins so tight they squeaked. Reaper just nodded and said, "Good. That's good." Grace recovered slowly, but she recovered. Physical therapy, medication, breathing exercises. Her color came back. Her strength returned. She started cooking meals for the brothers, insisting on contributing. 6 months later, Reaper got her a job, office work at a logistics company, with good pay, benefits, and health insurance. When she received the offer letter, she cried for an hour. A year after that first meeting at the diner, the brothers threw a party at the clubhouse. Nothing fancy, burgers on the grill, potato salad, cold beer, music from a speaker. Nina sat on Tank's shoulders, laughing. Nadia played poker with Blackjack and won, to everyone's surprise. Grace talked with Wrench about her new job, about starting over, about hope. Smoke pulled the twins aside and gave them a gift. 2 identical leather bracelets, with the name Ghost engraved. "So you never forget," he said, voice rough. "So you always know where you come from." The girls never took them off. That night, Reaper hung 2 photos on the clubhouse wall. The first was the old photo the twins had brought, Ghost young, laughing, full of life. The second was new, Nina, Nadia, and Grace surrounded by the bikers, all of them smiling. "Family," Reaper said, adjusting the frame. "That's what Ghost wanted. That's what he got." Years passed. Nina and Nadia grew up. They graduated with honors. At the ceremony, they gave a speech about family, loyalty, and the people who show up when you need them most. The bikers sat in the front row, and when the girls mentioned the uncles our dad left us, they stood and cheered. Grace lived to see her daughters graduate from college. Healthy, happy, grateful. And at the clubhouse, on the wall of fallen brothers, Ghost's photo held a place of honor. Beside it, a simple plaque. Daniel Ghost Brooks. He chose love. And because of that, his girls found a family. The moral of this story is simple: family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up when you need them most. Ghost left the road because he loved his daughters more than freedom. And his brothers honored that choice by taking care of what he left behind. Loyalty doesn't die with a man. It lives on in the promises we keep and the love we show. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Who are the brothers life put in your path? Who showed up when you needed them most? Remember, the best journey isn't the one we take alone, it's the one we take together.